Good morning. It is Thursday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jamar here with Jared Smith. It's presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. We are here. It is wild card weekend, almost technically, because we're 2 days away. How was your night last night? What'd you do?
Do you want to have a good story? Should we start with a good story?
Sure, of course.
I got stood up for a date last night, like straight
No,
ghosted.
like
I
you
put the
went to
fun.
the spot?
So yes, and it was actually her. Like she wanted me to pick her up, which I thought was a little bit interesting. So she gave me her address, and it was like this like gated complex. There's all these gated complexes in Vegas. So you don't like go up to like the direct house. And I went up and I started texting her, and she just never responded. And then I left like after like 30 minutes of waiting for her to pick her up. And then she told me that her phone was messed up and she had to do a factory reset. I'm like, what is she, freaking Apple Care? And then that was
I
it.
get the
That's
factory
the only
reset
story.
thing. I've had to do that before. But it was like, hey,
Stop.
like let's go out again sometime. No, not like
No,
when I'm waiting for a date, but I've done the factory reset before.
exactly. And if you're gonna do it, wouldn't you be like, hey, my phone's about to shut off on a factory reset? Like, I'll meet you here or whatever. No, I think she was a catfish. Like, you meet these people online and you don't know who they are. Um,
No, Jared, I'm
It was
sorry.
funny though.
Screw it.
It turned into a good story. I posted it on my Instagram, and a lot of people like laughed and joked about it. So it turned into a good story.
Yeah, I like it. And you know what? You use that for the next one. Be like, hey, I have this really awesome story. Let's tell you about it.
Oh no,
Well,
I'm not.
sorry. Hey, at least you got to go home.
I'm gonna be like, it's like one of those things where I'm like gonna stop dating for like a month now, just because I need a break from it. I go through ebbs and flows
Hey,
because
you know
it's
what?
not
That
exactly.
takes you through the rest of the NFL season. You can lock in the
Yeah, right,
NFL and then
right, right,
start
right,
dating
right.
again after that. We do have a lot to get into today, though. NFL Would You Rather, with some conference championships and the Super Bowl. We'll get into that. We have NBA with our guy, Bobby Stanley. He's going to come on, break down what we've seen. Now we are officially halfway through the NBA season, which is crazy. The Hawks just played game 41 last night. We leave today for Indiana. So, pretty crazy stuff right now. And then the NFL is the trend, your friend, before our play of the day. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's bet it. Let's start it out with Would you rather? The NFC Championship. Would you rather choose the Bucks at 11 to 1 odds, basically, or the Vikings at 12 to 1, or neither? I'll give you the option or
Yeah.
neither.
No, you. I was gonna say you gave me a get out of jail free card
You
with
get
that
an
last
out
one.
too if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for the sake of the show, I'll choose because I'm sure they'll put this on social media and I'll get roasted just like I did yesterday for the Vikings one with making it seem. I mean, it is a fair point about where the Niners are right now and where the Vikings are right now. And if by some grace of
Hmm.
God's will, Geno Smith strolls
Yeah.
into Santa Clara and wins that game, all of a sudden the Vikings' path to winning the NFC Championship gets very interesting because not because they can win it, but because the number says they aren't even going to come close to winning it, yet they might get
Yeah.
two home games. Whereas the Bucks, the odds of them getting two home games are very slim. Because then you'd have to have two upsets in this first round for
Yeah.
Tampa Bay to host. In the next round, you need to have you'd have to have two teams below Philly and Tampa Bay, which would be in the next round. So I don't see that happening, and I think I think the Vikings are the pick here because they're
Wow. Okay.
of these two teams, they're the only one that is favored to win this week, and I've seen some really sharp money come in on Dallas over the last 24 hours or so. So I think that line's going to get back to 3 at some point this week. So there's that. And then there's the fact that I just gave out the Vikings as my 3-star bet of the week on Pickswise.com. So how can I
Yeah.
not, of these two, choose Minnesota? Not exactly a very analytical choice, but who would you pick? It's really the question. I want to know that.
I mean, can I say neither? I would pick neither of these teams, to be honest with
Sure.
you. I know the value right now
Cop
is on
out
the
answer,
Vikings
though.
at 12 to 1. Um, Not a cop out answer. I know the values on the Vikings right now at 12 to 1 odds, but like I truly do not believe they have
I
what it
agree.
takes to win the whole thing. Like to be honest with you, I
Logical
don't know. Like
answer.
I mean, I know the value is sucked out of the 49ers at this point at 2-1.
Yeah,
And there's a little bit of
it's
value on the
even less than
Cowboys.
that,
I
right?
mean, I truly, in my heart of hearts and gut of guts, think it's going to be the 49ers. So I could bet it, still get it at plus money at 2-1. But if you want good value, like plus 12 to
Yeah,
1, that you're not going to get that. But realistically, I do think the 49ers are going to win it. And so at this point, there really isn't value on it. But just from what I've seen of the Vikings, it's statistically improbable that you win 11 one-score games. You go 11-0 in those games. Like that, I know eventually that luck is going to run out. I just don't know
it
exactly when
will.
it's going to be.
I don't know
And
if it
this
runs out this
weekend,
week,
I
but it
know
will
this
run out
weekend
now.
it's going to be really, really interesting against the Giants because the way that Brian Dable coaches, I'd be shaking in my boots at this point if I was Minnesota. I know Minnesota has the veteran quarterback. Um, I know that they have the better pieces. They have the lesser defense, which makes
Yeah.
me a little high on the Giants and the
Both
way that Brian Dable
defenses
can
suck
coach
pretty
against
bad,
that
to
team.
be perfectly
Yeah,
honest with you.
both suck bad. The Vikings is worse. The Giants is right behind
Vikings is
them
worse.
for second to worst, basically.
Although
Um,
you might be surprised to know this or not, but the Vikings actually are 2 spots higher in the DVOA ratings than the Giants are.
yeah, for the
So
entire season, but the last like 4 or 5 weeks or so, the Giants have been the better defense. So it's just gonna be.
Giants
It's
have been
gonna be
playing a
this.
little bit better.
Yeah, this game is going to be interesting. I'm not sure who I would take. I do know who I would take for the AFC Championship, though. The Bengals at plus 450 or the Chargers at 12.5 to 1. I lean the Bengals here, obviously, and
Oh
I know you
wow.
probably do too.
Yeah, I think what we're trending towards is the rematch of all rematches. And I feel like this is fate. This is the storybook. This is the script, right? People, all the whack jobs out there with the tinfoil hats think the NFL is rigged. I saw that trending again on social media this weekend. It's not rigged, people. It's just really freaking random. It's really random. Sports is really random and unpredictable. It is not rigged. Um, but it looks like we are trending towards a Buffalo Cincinnati divisional round. I mean, I just don't see a world where those two teams don't win this week. So
Totally.
that is going to be a very emotional game in Buffalo. And I really don't know how Cincinnati comes in there and wins that game. I think that's going to be a really, really tough game for them to win. So that being said, Chargers win this week. Our pal Clev TA has the Chargers as his 3-star bet of the week. So I bet the Chargers last night. I know I was undecided on this game, but when our pal Clev TA chimes in with a 3-star, hard not to
Yeah.
tail. And that would set up a Chargers Chiefs AFC divisional round. If you had to pick one of those two teams, Jaguars or Chargers, that has a chance to stroll into Arrowhead and win that game, I would absolutely say it's the Chargers. They've done it before, and they've played well against the Chiefs in recent history with Herbert under
Mm-hmm.
center. So I kind of think that number on the right might be the number because I don't know if I see Buffalo going into or Cincinnati going into Buffalo and winning. Like it seems like it's all
Yeah.
kind of coming up Bills. They get a home game
I
against
totally.
the Bengals after that crazy Monday night. So I'm a little less bullish on my Cincinnati projection than I was a few weeks ago, just because of how this bracket's shaping out.
Yeah, totally. And I can see that divisional round being similar to what we saw last year between the Chiefs and the Bills, which was one of the best divisional games that I've
Yeah,
ever seen. It ended up being better
yeah.
than the conference games, to be honest with you. Like that game was phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that kind of shakes out. Okay, let's take it from the field to the hardwood, the court, NBA. We are officially halfway through the season. For more on that, let's bring in our guy, Bobby Stanley, to chat some NBA props, what's intriguing, what he's seen so far. Prop Holiday, Bobby Stanley, happy Thursday. How are we?
Happy Thursday, guys. Doing well. Doing well. Getting ready for Wild Card Weekend. It's exciting.
Yeah, there's so many good storylines heading into this weekend. 6 big games. And I like that we can like solely focus on one game at a time too, which is gonna be nice. It's like 4 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. Saturday, 1, 4, 8 p.m. Sunday, 8 p.m. Monday. It's gonna be nice to like fully lock in and watch every single play of every one of these games. But we are halfway through the NBA season, which is crazy. I feel like it's gone by slow and fast at the same time. I know KD is going to be out for a couple weeks at a minimum. Um, Are you still looking forward to the Celtics Nets matchup, even without KD in the lineup?
I am, and it's more curiosity than anything to see how Jacques Vaughn lays out. Who's he going to lay out
Mm-hmm.
against this Boston team? In my head, I went, "Ooh, this is T.J. Warren time. This is what you brought him in for." And then I read a couple interviews with Vaughn saying he's going to be on a minutes restriction. They want him fresh for the playoffs. So I do think he's going to be out there, but nothing more than probably 20, 25 minutes. So who are they going to put out there? You look at Watanabe,
Mm-hmm.
you look at Curry, Joe Harris, Patty Mills. I think they're going to be able to score, but they're going to be very exploitable on the perimeter for this Boston team. So, what rotations he puts out is very curious to me. And then, Ben Simmons, the elephant in the room, can he step up? I mean, he averaged 10 drives per game as a 76er. Now he's only averaging 3 drives per game, and he's shooting 41% from the free throw line. And yes, I had to double check that stat before I brought it to the show. So who are they going to put out there is intriguing to me. And then just
Yeah.
always Kyrie against, the young guys he brought up for a few years is intriguing to me. So I'm going to watch tonight. It's still an exciting game.
Yeah, definitely. So prop betting in the NBA. Because we haven't talked with you about a lot of NBA so far yet this year. Obviously, we're going to start to transition into that now that the NFL is sadly only 13 football games left this year. So not a lot of football opportunities, but basketball is plentiful. It's every night. Lauren is on the road 24/7, 365, chasing these guys around every city in America. So there's lots of opportunities here to get involved. When you look at a prop card every night in the NBA and you look at 8, 10, 12 games on the docket, what's your process like? Walk the viewers through what a normal morning is for Bobby Stanley when he tries to get invested in the prop market every night. What are some of the important things that we should keep an eye on that maybe some of the viewers could start to glean from?
Sure. Well, I mean, the first thing is take a look at the slate. Try not to be too overwhelmed. You have a slate like tonight. I think it's 5 or 6 games, but on a Wednesday night, it's 12, and you go, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
I want something in every game." Don't do that. I try to look for the biggest mismatches. Teams like Detroit, teams like Houston, teams like Charlotte, they're terrible in offensive and defensive rating. They play at such a high pace. These are games where you can really you can see players go off and really explode. And then I try to focus on back to backs. Back to backs are a big thing in player props. Some players excel, especially shooters. If you find a 3-point shooter on a back to back, he could be getting in a rhythm. And then some guys, they just don't thrive. They don't play well on that short turnaround. So the situation is what I look at first, and then really kind of delve into the props.
Yeah, I know. It is interesting to see some of these player props, how you can cash out on them. I want to talk about the Raptors for a second because they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They have won their last 2, but they're sitting right now at 11th in the Eastern Conference. For a team like this, do you think they're about to enter a rebuild phase, or do you think this is just maybe a down year for them compared to what we saw last year?
We're going to find out at the deadline. I mean, they're one game behind Chicago in the play-in, but that's not where they expected to be midway through the season. I do think they have some valuable trade pieces where we could see them go in one of two completely different directions. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Siakam, Fred VanVleet, or Scotty Barnes are going anywhere, but OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. very well could. Um, if I'm looking at it, what could they get? Who are the teams we're focusing on? So the Knicks and Mavericks would be at the top of my list for
Totally.
someone like Anunoby. Maybe Phoenix, they could package a Jay Crowder and a Cam Johnson and get back into that top of the Western Conference standing if you bring in, a second scorer to Devin Booker. And then Gary Trent Jr., I'm just a fan of this guy's game. I know it's very overlooked. I don't know why. But I love Gary Trent Jr. maybe in a 6-man role. And unfortunately, he's probably going to end up on a team with like the Hornets where he's getting 15 a game and they flame out. But they do have pieces where they can really go in one direction or another. Is the rebuild going to happen? That's my guess. I mean, we were expecting Scotty Barnes to take this massive leap to turn into a potential all-star. If you remember in the offseason, they were flirting Kevin Durant to the
Yeah.
Raptors, and they said, no, we're not giving away Scotty Barnes. Hindsight, they probably should have. But I do think we start seeing the rebuild direction because they weren't expecting to be the 11th seed this late in the season or midway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not. All right, games on the card tonight. I see Scotty Barnes is on your list here.
He is.
What's the vibe for him? I mean, it's kind of a smooth transition, right? Tell me about Scotty Barnes over rebounds and assists.
So that is my one play for tonight. It's Scotty Barnes over 11.5 rebounds and assists. He's averaging 10 potential assists per game since the beginning of January. He's hit this in 6 of the last 8, so the frequency is there. Leads the team in potential rebounds, 14.2 rebound chances since the beginning of the year. And it's because he's not really getting it done scoring, so he's got to do it got to get it done in the other areas because he's not scoring too well. And then you look at the matchup, it's the Charlotte Hornets, I already mentioned. They're top 10 in pace, and they're just weak on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're 26 overall defensive rating, 28 overall in offensive rating. What is that? It's a lot of opportunities for rebounds. It's a lot of assist opportunities for this Toronto Raptors team. So give me Barnes over 11.5 rebounds and assists. And if we can, I want to touch a little bit more on kind of the player prop aspect. You asked me what's my day look like, but also what are props to focus on for NBA? At the top of the list for me, it's really points. And you guys will see this on Twitter. You're on Twitter as much as I am. How many nights do you sign in and you see video clips where it says, isn't this a rebound? Wasn't this an assist? Didn't they take this away at halftime? He had 4, then they brought it down to 3.
Yeah.
I try to take all of that out of the equation. Points are points. There's no guesswork in it. So points, I think, are a very attackable line. And then there's the less known player props that you can really find some weaknesses in. And it's blocks, steals, and turnovers. It's just a weaker market. People don't play it as much. But you can find teams that play at a higher pace, more susceptible to turnovers. So that's another angle I like to look at, blocks, steals, and turnovers. The best value is 15 minutes before tip-off. And I'll give you the example of last night. Miles Turner got declared out 10 minutes before the game. None of us had any clue that was going to happen. What was the result? Julius Randle had 16 rebounds. I would have loved to have played his, over 10.5 rebound line had I known Miles Turner was going to be out, but we don't find out until 10 minutes before the game. So sometimes patience is the biggest thing in NBA player props.
Yeah, patience.
Yeah, that is actually
not very. Not a lot of people have patience.
Patience.
So. Good luck.
Patience is a virtue, is what they say, I think. Last but not least,
I know I don't have it.
2 really hot teams. That's true. I don't have it either. 2 really hot teams right now. The Bucks sitting at 3rd in the Eastern Conference. The Heat are at 8th, but they won 1. The Bucks played here in Atlanta last night against my Atlanta Hawks.
Good game too, right? I saw the highlights, right? It's a good game.
Yeah, it was fun. The Hawks were down 24 points. They came back up 2, ended up losing it, but it was a really, really good fight by the Hawks in the second half. But the Heat take on the Bucks tonight. What do you expect in this game? Bucks being on the second half of a back-to-back.
Perfect example of patience. I go and look at the line. The only lines I'm seeing up right now are Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Just looking at it on paper, is this a game that Giannis potentially sits? I mean, you look at him last night at the end of the game. He won the game. He was on the bench. He looked flat out exhausted. And you think he scored something like 9 points, 8 points.
7.
So I'd be curious to see 7. Sorry, I'd be curious to see who they trot out there tonight. I was on your boy Bogdanovich
box
last night.
score, it's in her head. She's she could recite it.
It's it's ingrained in there. It's ingrained. He didn't have 10 assists though, which means that
God bless you.
Yeah, he was getting the ball in the paint. They did a really good job defending him, and so he was kicking it out, and his teammates were making 3s. So he had 10 assists, but he only had
7. No, she didn't look at anything.
I was on Giannis for the triple double.
She probably did a hit after the game where she had to say Giannis scored 7 points, and it was just in there, and it was ready to go.
It's in there.
I mean, that's a go-to. It doesn't happen very often. You have to hammer it home.
No, it doesn't. That's a very low number for him. I bet he went under his prop last night.
Just 34.5 points.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, just a hair under.
No, but as far as tonight's game, if you're looking at a back-to-back and you're looking at the Miami team, I usually look for how much energy these guys got on a back-to-back. So I'm looking at Max Strus as a three-point shooter. Are you going to be able to close out with as much intensity coming off a game and now you're traveling? So Max Strus on a three-point prop. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo just banging it in the paint. Those are things I tend to look at. Pat Connaughton's playing exceptionally well lately, both in the rebounds and in the three-point column. Last night, not so much. I think he went 2 for 10. Lauren, please correct me. But other than that, he's been playing really, really well.
How many minutes did Pat Connaughton play last night? And how many turnovers did he have?
Yeah, I honestly don't know the whole statute, but I know that he drained 2 threes. So I know,
Let's
like
put
right,
down
like
two
towards the
threes.
Ibarra
beginning of the
on
game.
random box scores from Hawks games
I know,
prior this
seriously.
season.
Let's take it back to
Lord,
game 31. See what happens.
I was on Bodie last night. I was on Bogdanovich, and I talked about it last time I was here. He's a guy who can go off for 25 at any point. I was on his over on threes. He finished 3 of 8, and he finished with 22 points. So if he got that fourth one, I would have hit 25 plus and 4 threes, and he came just short. But he's a guy I love betting in those spots, especially with no Trae Young. He can handle the load offensively when he's out there.
Yes, he can.
NBA is great. I can't believe we're already halfway through the season. We so appreciate you coming on, giving us your take, telling us how you bet player props. And I'm sure we'll be
Very
talking to you this
helpful, guys.
weekend
Listen
too
up, take
for the
notes.
wild card round.
I can't wait for this weekend, guys. Take care.
Your article's
I know,
already
a
up.
lot
I
of
was
good
looking at
games.
some of your props last night, so it's up there. Check it out. He likes Justin Herbert. There's a couple other ones I think that were up there that look pretty tasty. So get involved. Props are up. Numbers are moving.
Make sure to check it out. Pickswise.com. Bobby Stanley, have a great day. We'll talk to you Saturday, Sunday, Monday, probably.
Good stuff, Bobo.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Oh, man.
That was
Good
Bobby
stuff.
Stanley. All right, before we get into our best bets, Jared, let's quickly go through some of the best trends that we have
Oh, I
in
got
the
a few for
NFL
you.
this weekend. Is the trend your friend? What are your favorite trends for this
favorite
weekend's
segment?
games?
This is your favorite. This is like, so when Kyle and I were going back and forth about some fun segments we could do today, and I was like, let's do a trend as your friend, because that's like Lauren's favorite segment, and then we
I love is a
can
trend.
banter back and forth about what trends matter and what trends don't. So I'll give you one that's interesting, and this is really, I think this is the theme of the weekend. This is kind of a theme, and you're looking at these lines and you're like, man, and we use this phrase all the time, and I hear every gambling show use this phrase. It's a lot of points. Like, Niners are laying 9.5, and
A lot of
Bills
points.
are laying 13. A lot of points. Bengals laying 8.5. It's a lot of points. Well, in the wild card round since 2004, it hasn't been a lot of points, because more than 7 out of 10 times the team that covers, or excuse me, let me rephrase. More than 7 out of 10 times, the team that wins the game also covers. 57 out of 80 times. So the 23 times that it hasn't happened, it's been 13 favorites that have won, failed to cover. 10 underdogs that have covered, failed, or that didn't win, but also covered. So you kind of see where I'm going here. You get these, narratives. Oh, it's a lot of points. Well, more often than not, 73% of the time, basically, the team that wins the game on wildcard weekend also covers. And that percentage is up from the playoffs as a whole. So as we get further and further along in the postseason, yes, the phrase "it's a lot of points" has a little more statistical value to it. But this weekend, I'm not as concerned with laying chalk. If I think Buffalo is going to win the game, I should feel confident in laying the 13. Same with Cincinnati and with San Francisco. Obviously, the smaller numbers don't really matter as much because they're pretty.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
what just
My thing
happened?
just
I got
completely
stressed
froze.
out.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Where did you lose
weird.
me? Where'd you lose me?
I don't know. I got a little flustered, to be honest with you, in the last second. I was like, what just happened?
Yo, I got
You were
stood up
talking-
again. My
you were
internet
talking-
stood
yeah.
me up.
The entire stream froze for a second. Kyle also got scared. I refreshed. Hey, we're good. But you were
We're all good.
talking about just double-digit underdogs.
Yeah.
And how it hasn't been
The overall
necessarily
theme
too
is
many
just
points.
if you feel, and this is like a weird phrase, because if we all could just do this would be easy. But just pick the winner of the game, guys. If you think this team's going to win, bet them also on the money line if they're an underdog.
Yeah.
If you think this team is going to win as a favorite, don't be afraid of 13 points or 8.5 with Cincinnati or 9.5 with San Francisco, because more often than not, if that team wins the game, they're going to cover the spread. And the underdog ones are the really interesting ones, because then you get some money line value there. So again, it's not a trend that I would do for every game in the postseason.
Yeah.
But during the wild card round specifically, I feel a little more confident with laying some of these bigger numbers. What do you got
Yeah,
for
I
me?
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. My trends have to do more with the specific game. So I
Yeah.
look at the 10 points or whatever many points the 49ers are laying because that line's been vacillating a little bit. I feel comfortable laying those points. I look at the Seahawks, they're 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 games. And then you look at the 49ers, they're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 playoff games. I like how Brock Purdy has honestly been playing. And I look at the pieces around him. Number one, they have the best defense in the NFL at this point of the season. No one wants to go up against the 49ers defense. That includes the
No.
Seahawks offense that has been rolling and Geno Smith that has been rolling. But I feel like they're going to run into a cement wall when they look at the San Francisco 49ers defense. Then you look at the offensive side. They don't need Brock Purdy to do anything special. They just need him to be solid. They need him to be consistent. And that's exactly what he has been. He hasn't really thrown very many interceptions. He's thrown 13 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions in the 5 games that he's played or 6 games that he's played. Like he's been playing not amazing, but he's been playing solid enough for me. The other one I look at too is the Bengals. I'm scrolling down to my Bengals notes yesterday from Pickswise Playbook. The Bengals 9-1-1 against the spread in their last 11 home games. I am laying the points
Wow.
with the Cincinnati Bengals. I know it's still
Yeah.
kind of up in the air in terms of what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. How is that going to look? The infamous Lamar Jackson, will he be back? Will he not be back? What's going on? Baltimore is 0-5 straight up in their last 5 games in January. That's interesting to note too. So I look at the Bengals and I feel pretty comfortable laying the points with them in this spot. And I know those are two massive spreads, but at the same time, it's like I just feel like these teams are going to dominate. I feel like they have their eyes set on the prize. This is just like, they're coming on in. And they're like, okay, let's just get past this round. Like we talked about yesterday on Pickswise Playbook that is out on YouTube, so make sure to check it out.
Please
Are the
do.
Bills even playing a game this week? We don't know. They're playing like half a game this week, technically. Like the Buffalo Bills are not playing a full-on game because who are they going? Are they going up against Teddy Bridgewater? Are they going up against Skylar Thompson? The Dolphins are missing a bunch of key pieces offensively. Tyreek Hill, Jayden Waddle, they're all like banged up a little bit at the same time. Defensively, they're missing a lot of players. So the Bills, I feel like, are also a good team to lay the points with, but I don't necessarily have a trend when it comes to that. But some of these first round games, I'd feel comfortable laying the big points. One, because of the trends, and two, just looking at the matchups and what's next on the docket for some of these teams. But looking
I
forward to
agree.
it. 6 big games this weekend for a wild card weekend. Let's get it
Yeah.
popping. Let's get it rocking. Let's get it propping. You love to see it.
The other trend I'll
I
give
know we
you
have,
that we talked about
yeah,
a
let's
couple
hear it.
times is there's two other ones that I'll give you, and you tell me which one you like better. So
Yeah.
home underdogs have really struggled in this round. 8-8, 8-2 against the spread, 5-13 straight up since 2004, 6 straight losses. We haven't had a home underdog win outright since 2014, and that was when the Colts erased like a 30-point deficit or something against the Chiefs. I don't think it was that much, but it was a lot. And then double-digit dogs, as we've discussed, 1-7 against the spread in the wild card round since 2004. The only winner was Taylor Heineke. They covered, they didn't win, and that was a few years ago. So again, you get one home dog this weekend in the Bucks. I guess the Jags too now because that line's 2.5. So home underdogs will have 2 bites at the apple this weekend, and it looks like double-digit underdogs will get definitely 1 with Buffalo and Miami, maybe a second if Seattle, San Francisco gets back to 10. I do see one book currently at 10, but for the most part, that market's at 9.5. And then the other one, and this is the one that I really am going to lean on for this Giants-Vikings bet, first-time playoff quarterbacks against non-first-time playoff quarterbacks. Now, we're going to get this in multiple scenarios with Josh Allen and Skylar Thompson, with Joe Burrow and likely either Anthony Brown or Tyler Huntley. And I think Lamar is done. I think he's off the reservation right now. He wasn't even at practice yesterday. I think he's completely checked out and he wants that deal. He saw what they gave Roquan Smith. I don't think we're going to see him at all this week. So I think that Bengals line is going to keep creeping up towards double figures. But to my point, the big first-time playoff QB versus non-first-time playoff QB with a fair line, Vikings laying 3 against the Giants because you get Cousins against Daniel Jones. The non-first time QBs are covering at 72%, 35,
Wow.
14, and 1 against the spread. So, and last year, think about the 3 rookie playoff QBs last year that played non-first timers. Kyler Murray against the Rams, they lost by 23. Mac Jones against the Bills, they lost by 30. Jalen Hurts against the Bucks, they lost by 16. All 3 of those games were on the road. And again, trends, some of them matter, some of them don't. Some of them have value, some of them don't. This one I think does have value. I don't know what we're going to get from Daniel Jones. And again, the one thing that could mute this trend a little bit is just how good of a coach Brian Dable is, and Mike Kafka, the OC, who's getting a lot of head
Yeah.
coaching love from Detroit and Carolina. He might be your new head coach, or he might be one of the new play callers. We'll see if Ben Johnson leaves. That it's going to be an interesting one. But I think Ben Johnson might leave Detroit, so you guys might need a new play caller. But there's a lot of love for Mike Kafka right now. He's doing good things. So I think that might be muted a little bit, but man, Daniel Jones, first playoff start on the road. I know the Vikings defense is bad, but that's kind of the angle that I like. Of all the trends this weekend, I think that's the one I like the most. The non-playoff
That trend
first time
is going to be your friend this weekend. There's so much to get into. We'll be breaking it down all weekend long, Saturday, Sunday, Monday games. We got you covered right here on Let's Bet It. And make sure to go check out our Wild Card Edition Pickswise Playbook. It's up on YouTube, Twitter. Make sure to check it out. It's awesome. We break down all 6 of the games, me, Jared, and Tank Williams. So get into it. Let's bet it. Presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. I kind of got sidetracked for a second. In this season, we are all rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you, my friends, get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Superbook.com to Pickswise.com. 3-star plays of the day. Do we have any for today?
Yeah, a couple on the docket. Mark Lammy checking in with Avs Blackhawks. You can guess where he's leaning there based off of that matchup. It will be very a favorable selection for my pal Lauren Jabara here. Philip Tomich also checking in Cavs Blazers, a total, an NBA total. Cavs Blazers.
Okay.
Have fun.
Make sure to go Pickswise.com. Check it all out. We have it all there for you. All right. Your best bet of the day. Who do you got for today on this Thirsty Thursday? We're thirsty.
Yeah, I kind of went. I had pizza last night, and so I have heartburn this morning. So the only thing I'm drinking today is going to be coffee and water to try to cleanse out my system. I can't eat foods I like anymore, Lauren. That's called getting old. I eat pizza. I wake up the next day with massive heartburn. Sad life for me. I know.
You hate to see it. You really do.
Oh God. All right. I went back and forth here. Listen, you know how I feel about plays of the day. All bets are created equal. I have 2 college basketball. I can't believe I just went there, but I did.
Yeah.
I have 2 college basketball plays that I like. I think there's one that'll be more watchable from a big game perspective. And then there's one in a really random conference. Then you know how much I love those really silly conferences. So I'll give you this one first. And I'll tell you that Ohio State, I think, is going to put a big number on Minnesota tonight. KenPom's got it at 18. The rating service that I use that's been doing okay so far this year, about 53.5%, also has it at 18. And so we're only laying 14.5 here against Minnesota. And again, have I watched Ohio State much this year? No. Did I watch them blow a lead to Purdue the other night when we bet Ohio State money line? Yes. Then they followed that up with a loss at Maryland. So the Buckeyes have lost 2 in a row, and that scares me a little bit. The fact that this line was bet down overnight from 16 to 14.5 scares me a little bit, because clearly there's some value or there's somebody really smart out there that likes Minnesota. But when I look at Minnesota's overall body of work, not very impressive. When they've managed up in the Big Ten and they went to go play Purdue on the road, they lost by 19. When they went to go play Michigan at home, they lost by 15. So that's really all we need tonight is, those two types of performances from Ohio State. Minnesota is not a good free throw shooting team. They're not a great team at holding on to the ball. They play at a snail's pace on offense, and their offensive efficiency is outside the top 200. Meanwhile, Ohio State's number one in offensive efficiency, top 20 EFG. They can score with the best of them. Now, they can also give up a lot of points. They're not a great defensive team outside the top 80 in adjusted defense, but I don't think Minnesota is going to put a lot of pressure on them defensively. So it feels like Ohio State's due for a big win. They've had two setbacks in a row in the Big Ten, and they are sitting at 2-2 right now in the conference. Again, I don't love it. I don't love laying 14.5 in a conference game, but I think Minnesota's off. So I'll give you that as my quote-unquote play of the day. Secondary play of the day, Jacksonville plus 3.5. It's in the Atlantic Sun. They're facing Kennesaw State tonight on the road. I don't know if you remember, but last year Jacksonville was like one of my favorite teams to bet on. They had one of the best ATS records in the country at I think it was 19-8-1 ATS last year. And they're one of the teams that anytime they play, I will always look at their line. And I've got it at about 2 points lower. I've got them at Jacksonville State plus 1.5, and we're getting 3.5. So that's a key number in college basketball. So I'll take the plus 3.5 with Jacksonville as well. And I'll bet both of these. Ohio State minus 14.5, Jacksonville plus 3.5. And we'll probably go 1-1, but let's have some fun, yo.
I'm taking mine to the ice. Stars taking on the Rangers at MSG, the most iconic building in all of sports, one of at least.
Woo!
And I'm fading the Rangers. I like the Stars money line at plus 112. They won against the Islanders in a shootout on Tuesday. They now want to go 2-2 in New York. They've won 6 of their last 8 games. And the Rangers, they won over the Wild on Tuesday. They're 4-0-2 in their last 6. Both teams are looking really good right now. This is going to be a battle of netminders. Jake Ottinger taking on Igor Shesterkin. Ottinger has been on fire, and to be honest with you, he's been better to me than Igor Shesterkin this season. 6 wins in his last 7 starts, and he's allowed 2 or fewer goals in 6 of those 7 games. In those 7 games, 1.64 goals against average, 945 save percentage. Now you look at a guy like Igor Shesterkin. He was also amazing in the month of December. He had a 7-2-2 record, 2.14 goals against average, 927 save percentage. But he has allowed 3 or more goals in each of his last 3 starts, and in 3 or more goals in 6 of his last 7 games. I look at Dallas. They lost to the Rangers late in October. I know that was earlier in the season, right at the beginning of the season, but they're going to want a little bit of revenge for that. Also, the fact that they have the second best defense in the National Hockey League, they're only allowing 2.60 goals per game. And with the way that Jake Ottinger has been playing, I trust them to protect their own net. The Rangers are right there too. They have a good defense, 2.71 goals per game, but they're going to be without Chris Kreider tonight. So I feel like goals offensively are going to be tough to come by without him in their offense. He's also a really big part of their power play. And Dallas's penalty kill right now, they're looking really good. They're 4th in the league. They're killing about 85% of their opposition's power plays. And I know the Stars power play on the other side has also been on fire. They're 5th in the league. They're converting at about 27.3% of their power plays. They're solid on both sides of the puck. I've seen a little bit more consistency from them all season long on both sides. And with the way that Jake Ottinger is playing between the pipes, especially recently, 1.64 goals against average in his last 7 starts. Last time I checked, that's pretty dang good. And the road team is 5-0 in the last 5 meetings between these two teams. The Stars have cashed in 4 of their last 5 trips to Manhattan. So because of that, and with the way that they're rolling right now, with the way that Jake Ottinger is playing between the pipes, I like the Stars money line and getting them as an underdog at plus money. Sign me up for it, baby. Stars money line. Lock it in. That's it for us today.
Manhattan.
Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Sorry that I'm fading your Rangers. With that, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then,
It's not personal.
Let's get it. Let's bet.
Business.